in the drawing room at Pantily, down in Cornwall, on the banks of the River Tamar, feeling very cosy because I lit the fire. It was quite a chilly evening for me, and now I'm really hot.
Well, it looks lovely, and I can see a glimmer through the mirror of a chandelier. Is that one of
Yes,
the Waterford chandeliers? Is that right?
it is indeed one of the last Waterford chandeliers before they sadly closed down in 2009.
I know. It's vintage now. That's considered vintage. It is.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
is. Before we get started, I just want to say hi to everybody. My gosh, so many of you are joining in. Holy cow. We've got Vermont. We've got Australia. Good morning from Australia, British Columbia, Canada, Houston, Texas, North Carolina, a cold Finland, San Francisco Bay, Northern California. Peric's here. Hi, Peric. We've got Salem, Oregon. Hello from Texas, Alabama. We might get all 50 states. We've got Berlin, Pennsylvania, Surrey. Yes, somebody from the UK. Amazing. New York City. We've got Hinsdale, Illinois. Oh, nice to see you, Cheryl. Houston, Texas, Alberta, Canada. Please do say where you're from. Cheshire. I'll try to shout you out. UK. We've got Sugarland, Texas. Somebody says nothing better than Irish Crystal. Well done, Peric. Don't you agree, Sammy? What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. She's very right.
Manhattan. Anyway, keep coming through Wisconsin. So many of you, Canadians, Americans, Australians. We've got Colorado. Anyway, before I get started with Sammy, first of all, this is a live Q&A. Obviously, we filmed at Pentillie Castle in 2021, and this is going to be a brilliant Q&A. And I just want to give a huge shout out to our co-production partner for American Viscountess when we visit the homes, and that is aonia.com. So we're just going to share a screen really quickly just so you can see aonia.com. And that really helps people discover the best online talks and courses from the leading museums and galleries in the USA and the UK as well. It lists hundreds of online events on their website and app every single week. So if you can't get to the exhibitions yourselves, you can still enjoy them through the online talks. And it looks like this week, Aonia is featuring the wonderful exhibition about the fashion designer Christian Dior, which is on at the Brooklyn Museum. We've got the Fabergé jewels and eggs at the V&A in London. And you can see a whole host of them. So when you click these boxes, and you can get information about all of the different online talks and the videos relating to the exhibitions. And then, of course, there's art history courses that you can do from home. There's book clubs. There's even a whole section on art-related things for kids to do online. And then, of course, online talks on gardens. I mean, everything is here. This is really a small fraction of the hundreds of online events that are on aonia.com. So it's well worth heading to aonia.com after our live Q&A to see what's going on. And we've put the web address down below. So that's my number one point I want to hit. Number two, I just want to let everybody know that Rockingham Castle will be the first historic house that we are visiting in 2022. And that episode number 1, airs in 2 weeks' time. So next Sunday, I'll be doing a live with William and Allie Hannum from Dean's Court. And then after that, in February, the first week of February, we go back to Saturdays and we will be at Rockingham Castle. And I just want to say a huge thank you to the American Viscountess patrons who have really helped to with the costs, really all the costs of covering these productions. We want to make sure that we're making high quality productions, and we're going to some fantastic historic houses across the UK. And your support is what is enabling us to be able to travel to these homes and to film and to edit. Steve and Claire, Victoria, and of course, Luke is behind the scenes. If you are a patron, you get early access to all episodes, you get behind the scenes, you get content, and you also will find out the other 5 homes that we'll be filming at this year. So we have announced to the patrons 4 homes already, and we've just secured 2 more homes for 2022. So we will have 6 homes this year. And if you become a patron, you'll be able to find that as well. So if you're interested in becoming a patron, the link is down below in the description. And yes, So let's get started, everybody. There we go. Sammy, are you exhausted with my spiel?
I am a little. I don't know how you talk that fast. You suitably lubricated if you had to have a glass of wine to get the tongue twisters going.
The tongue twisters, exactly.
I'm impressed.
So I just want to start out by, of course, thanking you. And I'm just going to go through, we've got some lots of questions coming up right now. I am going to, oh my gosh, so many people are joining. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. The question was, how often, so many of you saw the scene with Sammy and I wild swimming in the River Tamar. Somebody wants to know, how often do you swim? Do you wild swim in, and how cold is the River Tamar?
I last swam yesterday in the Tamar, yesterday morning, 8 a.m. A gaggle of girls joined me, and I did take the thermometer with me because we hadn't taken it for a while and we were interested. It was 5 degrees air temperature and it was 7 degrees in the water. And I have no idea what that is in Fahrenheit. So someone else who's much smarter than me can have a go at sorting that out. So it was 7 degrees Celsius in the water and 5 degrees in the air. So it was quite balmy, really. It was nice.
And but that's cold. That is really quite cold.
It was actually a bit chilly, but I'm pretending it was tropical. But as a result, I have my trusty thermos with me. I could have made a pot of tea, but I've got my trusty thermos and my tin mug. Which
we got to see on screen as well. Now, speaking of the screen, Luke has just chimed in. He says that 7 degrees Celsius is 44 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's cool. That's cool.
I have quite a lot of what you might describe as like seals in Wales. They have a lot of blubber. I'm not in a dissimilar proportion. So I'm just going to ignore when you're getting in the river.
I'm so going to ignore that. Now, somebody else has asked a question. Sammy, have you gone back to the stone circle and done any yoga?
I have done some yoga. I haven't done it at the stone circle, but you're absolutely right. I so should. There's been some beautiful sunrises this last week, haven't there? It's been the most gorgeous, crispy morning some of the days. So yes, absolutely. Very good point. Back I go tomorrow for a sun salutation. Tomorrow the forecast is good, isn't it? Off I shall trot.
There you go. Well, and maybe I'll just have to come and visit you again, and we'll do some.
That would be amazing. Perhaps I need to also a little prompt on that. I can't quite remember how to do it, but yeah, I have done some yoga. I have logged on to a couple of online classes, but it's not quite the same as having someone.
Well done.
No, lower. Bend
well done. No, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. So, okay, next question that is coming up here is. You're not afraid of cows like Julie, but is there anything that you are a fear that you're? What's your biggest fear? Basically, obviously, everybody knows mine are cows.
Mine, slightly ironically, is things in the water, which is ridiculous. So I swim a lot, but I'm really quite frightened of swimming in the sea when you can see the bottom. So I quite like swimming in the river because you can't see the dark patches when the seaweed is. So yeah, that is slightly irrational. And so every time I get in the sea when it's nice and clear, beautiful, and you swim over a dark patch, that makes me quite frightened. There might be something lurking. I don't mind when it's all obviously crystal beautiful, just sandy bottoms, but I don't like swimming over a rock. It might be a shark.
Yes.
So that's slightly irrational, I know, but yeah, that's one of my.
You're talking to the girl who has an irrational fear of cows.
No, I don't know. I think that's probably a sensible fear. Cows can be mean, but yeah, it was a good fear to have, but mine's slightly ridiculous, but there we are.
No, I would probably have that same one, actually. I just don't swim. I do my cold immersion dips for 2 minutes, but I don't do as, you go for long swims. I mean, yours are proper. I mean, I did that with you. It was proper.
Well, we swam to Devon on, what was the full moon night? Was that Monday night or Tuesday night? I forget. Anyway, we swam to Devon that evening, which was beautiful, into the moonrise. So it wasn't a long swim, maybe 5-10 minutes.
All right. Okay. I could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So Peric has asked, Sammy, how do you feel that life can prepare you for living in one of these estates and running such a house and an estate, or can life even prepare you for such an event? Good question.
A very good question. And it deserves a bit more thought than I feel able to give at this precise moment, Peric. I think a sense of humor, a slight sense of the ridiculous, to take a look at yourself and go, seriously, is helpful. Probably not being too smart probably also helps. I don't know. I think a sense of the ridiculous and a sense of humor is very important, and perhaps a good dose of bravery often to make decisions that are often quite scary. That's my weakest trait. I'm not very good at making decisions.
Yes, you are.
I find them a bit frightening, intimidating. Yeah. Anyway, that's a fear, isn't it? An intimidated by decision making. Anyway, enough of that. But yeah.
No, but that's a good answer. I mean, I think it's hard one to answer, but it's a good question, Perik.
Yeah.
Jesse has asked, what is Sammie's favorite thing about Pantily? And that can include the estate or the house or maybe one of each.
So many things. Cracky. The coming down the drive in the morning. That's my favorite thing. It's beautiful, and it sort of always takes your breath away a bit. And yeah, that coming down the drive in the morning.
Yeah, listen, I went down that drive and it was magical. It was
pretty beautiful. Good, isn't it?
Yeah,
sort of long, and a sense of anticipation, and often, the sort of slight dread of all the nasty things you've got to do in the office, like write a contract or something boring, or just a sense of anticipation of arriving to work to look after a couple on their wedding day, and it's all really exciting and fun, or just that.
Okay, I love that. I think it's wonderful. All right, so Luke has come in. There's still some more questions I'll get to, but I have to, I've got to, my husband has just asked quite a funny question. So I'm going to ask this. Luke says, I hear there's been some other recent filming at Pantily. How did that compare? And what was that filming?
Oh, goodness me. I can't. It was wonderful, but not nearly as wonderful as filming with you, Julie. It was different and also magical, and I don't know. It was with, we filmed with Rick Stein. And for those of you, most of you will know Rick, he's definitely an international star, isn't he? An international chef of note. He has also done a lot of TV filming globally. The pandemic, the dreaded COVIDness meant he was restricted to filming at home. So he has done now 2 series all about Cornwall, which is obviously where we are. And so, we did film with Rick in the summer. And I did also take him swimming, but I did also take him up to the mausoleum. And we didn't have very long with him, but he's just such a special man, actually, incredibly kind and incredibly gentle and just very knowledgeable. And that was a real treat too. Not that you're not knowledgeable or anything, but we didn't do yoga at the Stone Circle with him, Julie, and we didn't make sloe gin with Rick, but we did with you.
What is that? Hold that bottle up.
Can you see?
Yes.
Can you see the label?
Yes, it says Julie's Hooch.
Julie's Hooch. Or if I turn the label around, a slightly more polite label.
Okay, it says, I can read it. It says sloe gin by the American Viscountess. Is that my sloe gin I made with Mark?
This is your sloe gin. So I need to get it to you. We need to meet up.
Oh, wait, can you just taste it for me and tell me right now how it tastes? Can you do that?
Yes, of course I can. Because just funnily enough, I've got a glass right here. Who knew? So any opportunity to have a little drink. Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, I like that.
Good noise. A little dainty, can you see the little pretty glass?
Very pretty.
Look at the colour. It's very ruby, delicious, and rather medicinal, I think. Medicinal for a Sunday evening.
What do you think? Scale of 1 to 10.
Ooh, very nice. Yes, it's definitely, I'd say, it would be awful to give you a 10 on your first go. So let's go 8.75.
I will take that.
Surely good shot first. No, it's actually really amazing. Seriously good, Julie. Well done.
Well, I wish I was having
there might not be any left by the time we get to see. We better arrange that quickly.
Save some for me. So, for those of you who haven't watched that episode yet, I pick sloes with Sammy by the cows, and then I make sloe gin with Sammy's partner Mark, and Mark knows all about gin, doesn't he?
Yeah, so Mark is my husband just before he gets cross about being just a partner.
No, I know he's your husband, but sometimes people like using the word partner instead of husband.
Oh, well, okay, so he's my husband. He's definitely not my, before anyone gets any says no doubt, he's not my business partner. I don't think, as in, he and I would probably kill each other. You know, that whole kind of business partner thing. I don't think that would really work. We might try one day, but yeah, no. So he sells gin, one of the local Cornish distilleries that's just around the corner in Saltash. So he hangs out in a distillery a lot and spends lots of time with gin. That's quite a good brew, Julie.
I'm so happy. So everybody would have seen me filming with Mark, Sammie's husband. I only said partner because you know how in this day and age, I know. I gotta be politically correct on everything I say. Okay, so there you go. So we've got lots more questions coming in. Very good question, Luke. Someone's asked, and I can't read the name who said it, but I think it says friendly hi, but do you still have a Cornish dialect? And then she asks, I think Tamar means great water in Cornish.
Thanks for the difficult question. I can't remember. Tamar, I think it does mean something like great water, actually. And no, I don't have any kind of Cornish dialect, but there are Cornish people who do speak Cornish. So Baikano is, you know, Cornwall and welcome to Cornwall, and the Tamar Bridge is always there. But no, I don't speak any Cornish at all, sadly. So I need to get cracking with that.
And can you just explain to everybody, because, you know, I actually didn't get it when we were filming everybody. One of our first scenes, when we walked out onto the terrace, Sammy said, well, this is Cornwall and there's England. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's great. And I was sort of like, and afterwards, I'm going to admit this to everybody. We went out to dinner it was the one night, I think it was the second night, we went out to dinner with the crew after we filmed in Plymouth. And I said to Stephen and Claire and Victoria, I was like, what is this thing? Like, I didn't really get that. Was I supposed to get that? Like the Cornwall, England thing. And then somebody said, and then Stephen or Claire or Victoria said to me, oh, it's like California and America, the same thing, like, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, just I suppose your identity, isn't it? Your sense of place. And Cornwall does feel incredibly special and very different from just across the river. So just to put in perspective, the River Tamar that we swim in forms the border between Devon and Cornwall, and Devon and Cornwall are both counties in England. They're not states like in America, but you know they could be. Cornwall could be a state, as in it does feel like it has its very own sense of identity and purpose. And there's a sort of fun, friendly kind of rivalry on every level, whether it's the rugby to the way you put your clotted cream on your scones, whether you go jam first or cream first. And of course, if you're Cornish, you go jam first, and if you put the cream first, you'd be thrown out of the county. And yeah, it's a little phrase that Dad always says when he's introducing people to, you know, this is the border between Cornwall and Devon, but that sounds a bit meh. So we say this is the border between Cornwall and England, because the rest of England is that way, and you can't get to England by going any other way. So it's not like any of the other counties in England, which is sort of surrounded by many other, anyway.
Right, like silly. Exactly.
Not like Dorset, but that is beautiful, my goodness.
So we've got a few more good questions here. It's brilliant. So I will get through all the questions coming through as much as I can. So Jennifer Kingsbury has said Tamar means date palm in Hebrew. So pointing that out. But she's also asked, do you have any movies or TV show productions set to film there in 2022? You've just done Rick Stein. Yep.
No. Sorry. That's a fairly flat no. Sorry. We'd love
maybe
to.
Us. You might come back and revisit.
Well, in that case, then yes, we do. Go. Julie Montague and the American Pie Countess will be filming here in April.
Exactly. Just
the weather is warm enough and the bluebells are out. It's gorgeous.
Well, because I want to taste my slow gin. I want to come and taste my slow gin.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
No, we haven't done any TV for a little while, apart from the Rick Stein and you guys. So
Susie now I know the answer to this, but I'm going to let you answer. It's a very good question. Susie Stroud has asked, has your castle ever greeted royalty in its history?
Oh, it has. King Edward VII came up the River Tamar in his. Oh, he was on one of the yachts and the yachts up the River Tamar visiting Lord Edgecombe at Coateal. So Mount Edgecombe is down near Plymouth, where I think did you go out to Mount Edgecombe in your Plymouth one? I can't remember, not quite.
No,
but anyway, it's an estate down at the mouth of the river, and then also Coateal, which is just upriver from us. They're sort of linked and have royal connections. And he came up the river to visit Coateal and also stopped for tea at Pantily. So we have we built a little statue in the garden that's 3 wonderful pieces of slate that sort of depicts the family waiting for the king, because there's a family story actually. It's in here somewhere, but I can't see it. When they were homeschooling, they used to write their own stories and write a wonderful album. It's this wonderful story about when the king was coming and choosing what their father was going to wear. And he ended up wearing the chauffeur's trousers, I think, because they were more recently pressed and probably cleaner than William Coryton's. But it's, a wonderful story. So yeah, he did.
Amazing. And the reason I knew the answer to that is because when we were leaving, one of the traditions when you visit really any home, but I'll use historic houses as an example. And it's one of the things that I actually learned when I came over here is when you stay at somebody's house, you sign the guest book and you save those guest books. And so for our patrons, what we filmed when we were filming at Pantily is we filmed because Sammy had us to stay at Pantily when we were filming, and we were signing the guest book, Stephen, Claire, Victoria, and I, and Sammy then showed us King Edward VII's signature. So we ended up filming, because you get behind the scenes if you become a patron on a few of the tiers, and we ended up filming that and showing his signature in the Pentillie guest book.
And arguably, there are other signatures in that guest book which could be sort of deemed more royalty, like the wonderful Dawn French, who filmed here for a few series of Delicious, and those wonderful sorts of souls. But yeah, she's arguably more royal, do you not think? Dawn French is a bit of a superstar. Anyway,
we got that in too. We did get that in too.
Oh, good. Excellent. Just making sure.
Yeah, we got Dawn French in as well.
I'm having a lovely time with your slow gin, just quietly.
Yeah, just have that, please. So Stephen we've got hundreds of you joining live, which is amazing. Stephen has asked viewers, he's done a poll, if viewers have tried slow gin, and 77% said no, and 22% said yes. Sammy, can you just explain to the viewers why this is a big drink or a big spirit, if you like?
Well, yeah, it's a sort of liqueur, and I suppose it comes out of living in the countryside and foraging and finding things in the hedgerows. So in the autumn time, one of the berries that comes out in the hedgerows is the sloe berry. It grows on the blackthorn bush. Those of you who do live in the UK and live anywhere near the countryside, when it's hedge cutting time of year and you drive down the lanes and all of a sudden, particularly on your bike or pushing a pram, a buggy, and you end up with a puncture, it's often a blackthorn that's gone through your tires because they're pretty spiky and very sharp. Anyway, they grow these sort of blackberries that are probably the size of my fingernail, maybe a bit bigger actually, somewhere, one of these fingernails. And they're pretty hard and they're pretty tart. And I think, Julie, you tried one, didn't you? You thought it was delicious, straight up.
Yeah. It was like,
that kind of tannic kind of hideousness. So the sloe berry, you can cook with it, but it's pretty tart and pretty tannic, sort of strips the moisture out of your cheeks. But actually, if you pop it in a spirit, it could be vodka, it could be, actually, we generally use a cheap supermarket gin rather than the stuff Mark makes and sells. And mix it with a bit of sugar as well. So normally a third, but I think we normally go a bit lighter on the sugar and add the sugar to taste later. And you leave it to steep for a few months and it turns this wonderful sort of ruby colour. And you can use other hedgerow berries as well, damsons and that sort of thing. And yeah, so it's a bit of a sort of a winter liqueur. And we host quite a few shooting parties and that sort of thing. And it seems to be a sort of a bit of winter I'm getting really tongue-tied. I think I've drunk too much. I shan't have any more. It's a bit of a winter warmer when you're outside, walking in the countryside. It's rather fabulous. So yeah.
Brilliant. So that is slow gin, and thanks for doing that poll, Stephen. Now I'm going to go to Wayne's question, and I'm going to kind of answer this, but I could get it wrong. But Wayne has asked, how chilly and damp does Pantily get in the winter? Now Pantily, just so everybody's aware, is you can hire out the entire castle. And I can tell you from staying there, it's warm. So when I was there, it was unbelievably warm. Sammy's like burning up there with the fireplace behind.
Have you noticed?
Right. I mean, so we've moved on in this 21st century, and we're able to, I think, properly heat. And that's the wonderful. Sammy, can you explain to the viewers that what, Pentillie Castle is, you're open to the public in a different way, in the sense that people can actually come and stay at the entire castle and rent and hire it out.
So unlike when you're at Mapperton, we don't live in the main house at Pentillie. We live in one of the farmhouses, and the castle itself is 9 double ensuite bedrooms, and you can take over the whole place. And so rather like a self-catered cottage, except it's just a bit bigger. It's like a self-catered cottage on steroids, sort of thing. So it's sort of swelled in the Cornish mizzle, perhaps in the damp, and has got a bit bigger. But so we rent it out on a self-catered basis, or obviously we can look after you totally. So from the full kind of butler, concierge, food, drink, you name it, service. So it really depends what you would like to do when you come here. But certainly over recent months, we've had lots of wonderful multi-generational family holidays. So granny and grandpa bringing all their children and all their grandchildren and a couple of friends and a few dogs. And it's just been really lovely, actually. The castle's been really properly used. It's so nice after those months when we were all locked down. And weddings. We host a lot of weddings, which is also really fun, and with some beautiful views down across the valley. It's absolutely glorious. So yeah, we're very spoilt. But the reason the house is really warm is when we came to the house and took it over in 2007. We totally replumbed and rewired the whole house, and initially we ran it on gas, but then we had the opportunity to install a biomass boiler, and that's made a big difference. So rather than turning it off on and only having it on for a few hours in the day, it's on a low heat all the time. And so actually it feels warm all the time, even when the heating's not really on, if that makes sense. So
yeah, that's exactly right.
We're lucky. And having an Aga, as you obviously know, that also helps. So the kitchen's also warm too.
Yeah, the Aga. Everybody, I will be doing a vlog on the Aga. All the Americans want to know about the Aga. I will do that soon. Cheryl, I just want to say thank you to Cheryl. So, Sammy, what happens throughout this live, people can do a thing called Super Chat through YouTube, where they can donate to the production of American Viscountess. Wow. Cheryl Young, thank you for your donation. And she's just written, "It makes my heart sick that many of these beautiful homes won't make it because they're so expensive to keep up." It's sad, but I think that we're in a different generation now, and we're doing whatever we can to, and I think many more houses are making it and will make it. Do you have that same view, Sammy, about historic houses? And
yeah, I think so, because a lot of them were lived in privately and still are, but with no sort of income for the house itself. So the house would be the central part perhaps of a larger country estate, and the income for the estate would come from land rents or forestry work, or I don't know, loads of other different opportunities on estates. But I think that certainly for us, I wasn't brought up in this house, so it for me wasn't the sort of huge tie. When the old Mrs. Coryton passed away, it didn't matter to me that we had a guest sleeping in her bedroom, or so the treasures are very precious, but it wasn't quite the same sort of gut-wrenching, oh, we can't have the bridal suite in Granny's bedroom, that would be just awful, she'd be rolling in her grave. So there isn't that sort of tie for us. And actually the old Mrs. Coryton, I say the old because she's older than my mum, and so the old Mrs. Coryton, the previous Mrs. Coryton Kitch, she wasn't very sociable, and she was very private and lived a fairly not a hermetic life, but she really didn't see many people. And that to me feels very sad for a house like this. It needs to be shared, and we couldn't have afforded to live here and not make it work for itself. So yeah, it works for itself. Yeah. And then hence it stays as the central home, house in the middle of the estate, which we're very lucky to therefore be able to support the estate, support the house, and vice versa. So it works well.
Exactly. And I think that that's really remarkable, because I mean, obviously Mapperton, we open up the house to the public and the gardens, but as you said, people, we're not hiring it out, but I think what's really remarkable, Sammy, is that you have been able to keep Pentillie Castle in the family without selling it off to become a school or a hospital or a hotel. You have, it has stayed in the family, and you've made it into, a commercially viable business. And that's what the majority of historic house owners have to do now. We just all do it a little bit differently, but we all have to make the houses. When I say all, 99 something percent of us, 99%, and have to make it commercially viable. And so we all do it in our own different way and what works best for us. And I think, and so I hope many of you watching, and I know many of you will watch this later, but we do have hundreds of you watching, you will look at Pentillie Castle, the website down below. It's in the description. Cornwall is beautiful. I mean, it's one of the top places to visit in England. And I know
only once you've been to Mapperton in Dorset, because Dorset is obviously glorious as well. So yeah.
and we're not too far away. Listen,
a couple of hours. Yeah, but no, you're right. I think country houses now, they are looked after in a different way. And what is so fun about all of them is, as you say, they all have their own completely unique character, don't they, and charm, and almost a persona, because they are looked after by different people and have different sensibilities and came from a different sort of bit of history that's manifested itself in a more flamboyant way, whatever it's been. But yeah, it's fun.
Exactly. So I'm just going to do 2 more questions, everybody, just because we want to try to stick to about 30 minutes. And so Rodney has asked, what has been for you, Sammy, the biggest challenge when you took over running Pentillie? What was the biggest challenge, or what has been the biggest challenge for you? I know it's for a question, but throw out. I know that there's a gazillion.
Probably the sort of the biggest was inheritance tax. That's sort of perhaps boring, but we inherited not only the castle and the estate, but also a tax bill of about £4.7 million, which wasn't insignificant. So we did have to sell some land to be able to manage that. But that was a big challenge, obviously, but we overcame that. But probably the biggest challenge after that wasn't working with mum and dad, because I work with mum and dad and they're amazing. But when we were doing the renovation, probably the biggest challenge was choosing window and door furniture. Who knew that a doorknob and a window thing could be so controversial and cause so many rows and so many tears? It was horrific. And all about the ease of use, and do we make the stuff that's already here work and make it better, and try and make it sort of more obvious as to how you, rather than untwizzling knobs and doing this. Anyway, the window and door furniture / doorknobs and window knobs was a really pretty heinous challenge.
Right. You say heinous, I say heinous. Okay.
Or whatever.
There you go. I know it's the
potato.
I love it. So last question. I think this is a really good question. And I think we can both speak to this, Sammy, and it's how really has the pandemic affected the day-to-day running of these historic houses? I mean, it's been huge. It's been, it was a shocker for all of us in so many ways, because this is, these are businesses for us as well. These are businesses. And so I think for, like I was saying before, large majority of historic house owners, maybe not 99%, that was an exaggeration, but a large majority of historic house owners open up their house to the public. And when we were shut down multiple times, that is visitor income right there. And these houses, many of them rely on visitor income.
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. So visitors just stopping like that it's all well and good to just shut the door, turn off the heating, turn off the electrics, turn off everything you can sort of find, but still the electricity bill is astonishing. You're like, where did that come from? We weren't using anything. And then you remember that while the fridges are empty, you forgot to unplug them, and so they're draining electricity for a few weeks. And the biomass boiler, while it keeps the house sort of licking over at a vague temperature, it's still, all those bills sort of kept coming in, albeit smaller. And I think the challenge really, as you suggest, these houses are businesses, and it's having a conversation with your team to say, I don't really know what the future looks like. This is pretty hideous. And particularly over here, I don't know what it was like in the States, but the furlough scheme, I mean, furlough for I didn't even know how to say that word when we first started, but I had a conversation with all the team to say, I'm really sorry. I think we're going to have to just close, and I don't know how I can pay you for the next however long this thing is going to be. So that was fairly horrendous and not great fun. But, luckily for us, hospitality has really bounced back in the times we've been able to be open. It has been incredibly busy. And I suppose, being much like you in Dorset, Cornwall is a great visitor destination, particularly in the UK as well. So we were lucky enough to welcome lots of British visitors who perhaps wouldn't normally come to Cornwall, but they couldn't get to Mallorca or the States or wherever they would normally go on holiday. So we have then had some really successful months, actually. So it hasn't all been bad. And I think the opportunity to stop and look and think and smell the air and forget about the day-to-day stresses has been, actually, I'm really grateful for that opportunity, because I think there's going to be very few times in our existences where we can just stop. You don't have to go to work. Well, from us, I mean, obviously, so many people did work just incessant and terrifically hard all through the pandemic. And my goodness, thank the good Lord for them being so amazing. So I was very fortunate to be able to stop. And I think that for me, I will always be grateful for that, because I don't know that we'll ever have that opportunity again. So even just to spend time with the children, not that I ever want to go back to homeschool, my good Lord, that was horrendous. But yeah, no, that opportunity to stop was actually good. So yeah, there were some bad times, but I was very fortunate and very lucky, and we have so much space, and so for that I am, always will be grateful too. And I just feel we opened the gardens to the friends of Pantily and just let people come and walk around on any of the days, but when that was sort of allowed for their walks. But I just felt for the people who didn't have that opportunity. My God, I felt guilt, actually, a lot of guilt, that we weren't able to, I don't know, get a transporter, which would obviously have meant shoving far too many people together and just sort of, getting there's a phone box at the end of your road, just go and get in it and it'll bring you here. That would have been amazing, a sort of Doctor Who TARDIS type thing. Anyway, we weren't able to, but it was pluses and minuses.
Yeah, exactly. I think for many people agree that there were silver linings, but there were a lot of really difficult periods. And I think, adding on really quickly to what Sammy said, when you lose that income and you're running a historic house, it's not just the electricity and the biomass or the heat, it's the repairs. So for Luke and I, we had leaks going on, and Luke became a brilliant plumber, throughout it, because we couldn't get people in, because they weren't allowed. So Luke is fantastic at fixing leaks, at fixing leaks now. But, all of our restoration projects had to stop. And, there's, as you know, Sammy, there's these historic houses, they need constant attention and restoration and repairs. And it really is preserving this part of England's heritage. And that all had to stop in one sense, but yet some of it still needed to keep going, especially when you would have which we had a lot during lockdown, a lot of leaks. But we've all survived.
Not fun. We luckily didn't have any leaks, but we did have a very fortuitous meeting. Dad went, I don't know how we'd run out of fuel, but because we hadn't been anywhere, but there was, I think it was as the world was starting to open up and we needed to get some fuel in one of the Land Rovers. Anyway, Dad went to the local petrol station and was filling up with diesel for the Land Rover, and another Land Rover drove in, but it was a bright red, very very noticeable Land Rover, but it had a sort of cherry picker on top, and we'd been agonizing over the fact the house needed repainting. But we'd applied for various grant funding and we didn't get it. And we were like, well, that's just not going to happen. But it really did need doing. Anyhow, this chap with his cherry picker, he and Dad got chatting. So I think any opportunity to talk to another human being that wasn't your wife or your children or your father was like, whoa, this is exciting. Anyway, they then transpired that Tony could also do painting from the top of this cherry picker. Not only was he a tree surgeon, I think, by trade, but he was happy to wield the paintbrush. So anyway, we got the house painted. through the end of that lockdown, once things like that, the workmen were able to move about, a chance meeting in a petrol station where everyone was desperate to talk to each other. Where if you think if that had happened in normal life, there may have been a cursory, oh yeah, hi, you're a Land Rover in a Zoom, but the actual conversation that developed across a forecourt might never have happened. So, some other good things, weird connections came out of it.
Silver lining.
All of that.
Right there.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I won't keep you from that delicious sloe gin.
You probably should. It's definitely quite strong.
Woo-hoo! I can't wait to be with you. So I'm definitely going to have to come and pick up my bottle. It will be brilliant. And I just want to say thank you to Franner family, who has just given us, again, a donation for American Viscountess. She says, your content has made my life happier, and that's a very good thing. So we've had hundreds of live viewers, and of course this stays on YouTube for those of you who are watching later. It won't be live, but this will be on. Does
that mean I'm eternally 21? I like this.
Always
yeah,
exactly.
I'm 21, by the way, just a really bad looking 21.
You always look great. It was wild swimming. That's what it is. The wild swimming and the slow gin. That's what it is.
Great combo. Not together, not in the same moment.
So be sure to watch. What we've done, everybody, is we've put on the playlist of American Viscountess. You can watch what I like to call season 1, which is Iford Manor and Gardens, Pentillie Castle, and Dean's Court. We've put them in running order, so you can watch them all starting at Iford, the first house we did. Then we went to Pantily, then we ended with Dean's Court. You can watch them from the beginning. So if you haven't watched them, please just check out the playlist. It's right down below on my channel, and you will be able to watch them from beginning to end. And there'll be details, of course, about how to become a patron, a supporter of American Viscountess, so we can continue to film at these historic houses. So these historic houses can be seen. The real purpose of American Viscountess is so that these historic houses can be seen by an international audience, and that they're the houses that maybe you didn't hear about before, or you didn't know about them before. I think as an American, of course, we know about Chatsworth. Of course, we know about
Blenheim.
Luke just shouted Blenheim, right? But that's what we want to bring to life, is that there are hundreds of these across the country that are open to the public, that you can actually come and stay in. And that's what American Viscountess does. We want to really celebrate and spotlight houses for those of you around the world that you may have never heard of before, who have incredible history, and wonderful, of course, homeowners like Sammy and her family. So with that, there we go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sammy. And I'll touch base with you afterwards on WhatsApp and get in touch about my slow gin.
Cheers. Thank you for having me. Good evening. Bye.